I would like to call this video The Mind Part 1, and this video on the mind starts with God gave everybody a mind, and you have a mind, I have a mind, and every single human being on the face of the earth has a mind. And the mind is within you, and it has 4 parts: the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, the divine mind, and the ego mind. Now, the conscious mind is used by your personality self, and the subconscious mind is used by your soul, while your divine mind is used by your true self, your higher self, or the spirit, and the ego mind is used by your ego. So every part of the mind and every part of you use each other. Now, I really want to highlight the references in the Bible about the mind. Now, if we start off with Job, chapter 23, verse 13, it was said about Job that he is of one mind, and who can turn him? This means then that Job had one thinking system in his mind, in his conscious mind, subconscious mind, divine mind. And that is the way he think and thought. And it is what Job had put in his mind. For Job had faith and at the same time fear. But his mind, the 4 parts, were filled with one thinking system. Now, if we go to Proverbs 29, verse 11, it is said that a fool uttereth all his mind. That is, he chatters and chatters and chatters, and he talks and he keeps on talking. And Isaiah 26:3 said, God will keep you in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on him. So if you are thinking on the Word of God, and you have put the Word of God from the Bible into your mind, you will be kept in perfect peace because your mind is focused on God. Now you notice the references I'm using in the Bible about the mind. Now in Matthew 8:7, that is chapter 8, verse 7, we have spoken about the centurion who was using the science of the mind in relating to Jesus Christ about the way Jesus was to heal his servant, and that Jesus only had to think and use his mind and send his thoughts, his beliefs, and his convictions and passion of healing to the servant, and she will be healed. So he was using the power and attributes of the mind. Now, Matthew continues in chapter 15, verse 11. Jesus is saying, it is not what you put in your mouth that defiles you, it is what comes out. Because what you put in your mouth goes into your belly and then out into the draft or the toilet. But what comes out of your mouth comes out of your mind and your heart and your soul. And he told you that these thoughts that come from your mind, you have thoughts, words, deeds, your very being, and the issues and fruits in your life. So importantly, you see what comes out of your mind. The fruits in your life, the physical situations, the physical relationships, and the physical things, and the fruits and the issues, the events, the experiences, the circumstances, and the conditions. Now Jesus also gave us in chapter 16 verse 19, Matthew, he said, I give to you the keys of the kingdom of heaven, that while you are on earth, whatsoever you bind on earth, you think on earth, you want on earth, you desire on earth, is bound in heaven. And once it's bound in heaven, it's manifested in your physical world. Likewise, whatever you want to get rid of, bind it in heaven. Think on it, visualize it, picture it leaving and going and coming out of your life. And once it reaches into your kingdom of heaven, the mind, the soul, and the heart, and remember the mind, it will be done unto you. Now, in chapter 17, verse 20, Jesus spoke about your unbelief, the unbelief of the disciples, that they couldn't cast out the devil, and they couldn't heal the person. And he said it was because of your unbelief and your faith. But if you have as much faith as a mustard seed, Jesus said, you can say to this mountain, be removed and be cast in the sea, and shall not doubt in your heart that it shall be done, and it shall be done. So here Jesus was telling them that you must have faith. You must, and faith here is knowing how a thing works and your belief. And faith is a thought in your mind. But if that thought is strong enough to be transformed into a conviction and a passion, you will remove the mountain that you have had. And in Matthew 22:37, Jesus said you must love God with your mind and your soul and your heart. In Mark chapter 5 verse 15, Mark is telling us that we should be of the right mind, the mind of the higher self and the true self. And Luke chapter 12:29 is reminding us that we should not be of a doubtful mind. And John told us about the harvest. Do not say that it is 4 months to the harvest, but lift up your eyes and see the field white already for harvest. And visualize, picture, emotionalize, intend it to happen in your mind, and act as if it is already so. Now we go to the New Testament with Paul, and in Romans he said, chapter 8 verse 7, the carnal mind is enmity with God. This means that the carnal mind is thinking physical, carnal, and is of this world only. It is not at all thinking of the spiritual world, the kingdom of heaven, and the word of God. And in Romans 12 verse 2 he said, the only way you can be transformed is by the renewal of your mind. And you need to renew your mind from the earthly physical things to the word of God, to the spiritual realm. And in chapter 14 verse 5 in Romans he said, you must be fully persuaded in your own mind about the word of God. Now 1 Corinthians endorses that in chapter 2 verse 16, that we must have the mind of Christ. And the mind of Christ is about the word of God and focusing on the kingdom of heaven and righteousness. Now in Ephesians 2:3, it talks about the desires of your flesh and of your mind. So you desire things in your mind. God gave you a talent called the mind. In Philippians 1:27, he said you should be of one mind. That is the mind of God. That is the mind of the higher self, mind of the true self. And in chapter 2, verse 5, Philippians, he said, let this mind be in you, the mind of Christ. And 4:8, Philippians, he said, think on things that are true, just, pure, lovely, and of good report. So, in essence, he's saying that these are the things you must put into your mind. Right? Not carnal things, but things that are true, just, pure, lovely, and of good report. And that is the Word of God. In Colossians, he said, be humble in your mind. Chapter 3, verse 12. And in 2 Timothy, Paul is saying, chapter 1, verse 7, the spirit, you must be in the spirit of a sound mind. So your attitude, your thinking system, and your beliefs must be of a sound mind. And a sound mind is one that focuses on the kingdom of heaven and righteousness and the Word of God. And Revelation said, the 10 kings, they were of one mind. So, the message I'm sending here is about the mind. And that it was identified in the Bible that we do have a mind and that we have to use the mind. Nobody else can use the mind for us. We are the ones to use the mind. But who is the one to use the mind? That is the husbandman. Remember I told you about the husbandman some time ago? Well, he's your manager, he's your chooser, and he must choose to not leave the Word of God in the Bible, but take the Word of God out of the Bible and put it in your mind. And when you do that, your mind will be filled with the Word of God. And as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. The heart of your mind. You become what you think. Thoughts are things. So anything that has happened in your life in the form of a situation, an event, an experience, a condition, and a circumstance, a relationship or a thing has come about because of the thought in your mind. And when, as I told you, when you apply emotion to a thought, it becomes a belief or a fear. And when you apply more emotion to it, it becomes a conviction, and finally a passion. And this passion takes you over and operates through you, whether you want it or not. So, I am highlighting to you the significance and the importance of your mind. And if you do that, and focus on your mind and what to put into it. Now, you see, the mind doesn't just operate on its own. It is you who was given this talent to operate the mind. And what do you put in it is what causes the mind to work and how it works. Good or not so good. So that is your take-home message.